Longspur headquarters. We're coming live to you from the front veranda of Longspur headquarters. We are out in this beautiful, well, it's not fall, but late summer evening. It has a touch of fall feel to it. You can see a little bit of color peeking over up on the mountain behind me as we're overlooking the beautiful banks of Turkey Run. I want to welcome everybody this evening. This is going to be a good one. We're going to get rolling here in just a few minutes with our guest, Steven Ziegler from Rack Junkies and Dripfish Coffee and DeLong Lures fame. I'm sure you've probably seen some of Steven's writings on Facebook and social media. So we're going to get going live here in just a couple minutes with him. But first, I got to tell you about GoMart. GoMart here in West Virginia is a sponsor of ours. Another good West Virginia company doing great West Virginia things, just like Longspur's doing, helping out the people of West Virginia, trying to sell you the best price gas that they can in the state. Great place to stop in, get fueled up, and get rolling. If you need anything when you're in West Virginia or the Ohio Valley, we're getting going here, and just GoMart's just our go-to place. You need to stop in and go for good times and go for GoMart. Thank you. Hey, one of the things I wanted to tell you, we got some great information today at headquarters. The Longspur app is now on the Apple App Store. It will be live on there tomorrow. It's been accepted. It is uploaded. It takes 24 hours for the public to be able to get to it. That should be tomorrow sometime. So now you can download the Longspur app. You're going to be able to do some wildlife management on there. You're going to be able to request help from drone pilots. You're going to be able to get help from trackers on wounded game. And I mean, the functions on there are unbelievable. We have an EHD reporting function. And that information that comes in, we tell everybody, please report to DNR, but also put it on our app where we can crowdsource information for other hunters, and then we can send it to your local DNR also to share information with them. We also have a feral hog reporting on there. So if you're seeing feral hogs, report them. And we're going to crowdsource this information. What we're going to start doing is building a database of landowners that want you, the hunter, to come trap or hunt feral hogs. And as we build this database, we're going to be doing it for other species as well. So this is a wildlife management app. And I also want to clarify with you, everyone out there, we're only about 75 yards away from the main county highway here, so you're going to hear some traffic every once in a while, and every once in a while you're going to hear some of the dogs barking in the kennel. So anyways, I want to thank you for going to the Apple App Store. I'm just pre-thanking you now. You're going to go there tomorrow, and you're going to download the app. Now, and the app is the Longspur app. If you're on Google, it's coming. It's going to be a little bit. So you're going to have to go to www.longspur.app, download it to your home screen from the website, and use it as a progressive web app right now. And it works just the same, exactly the same. So I need you to do that. I need you to go to www.longspur.app, download it if you have an Android phone, and let's go from there. Okay? So once again, I'm Sean with Longspurs Beyond the Holler, and we're going to bring in our special guest for this evening, Steven Ziegler, and I think he signed in there. There we are.
Yeah,
How you
thanks for
doing,
having me.
Steven?
This is going to be fun.
Yes.
I'm doing great. I'm just been looking forward to coming on here.
Well, I really appreciate it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, Rack Junkies on Facebook, I mean, you all have a significant reach. So a lot of hunters and outdoorsmen know who you are. But for those out there that may be watching that don't know who you are, just kind of fill us in a little bit about Stephen.
So I got started doing this about 10 years ago, just making some rabbit hunting YouTube videos, started out as a YouTuber just for fun. Kind of went and one thing led to another, started some Facebook pages. My grandma shot a deer at 80 years old with a crossbow, went crazy viral. We started a whole website from there. And it just, we were basically bloggers from about 2016 through 2020.
Right.
And we just grew Facebook pages, which included Rack Junkies, the hunting news, and my business partner Aaron actually runs the Sportsman Party, which is another page. He does a lot of news.
Okay.
A lot of he gets a lot of views too. Between all those pages, we have about 1.3 million followers now on Facebook. So over the last year, obviously, things go through all sorts of stages, but this last year, we got back to the writing from what when we used to be bloggers. I thought, you know what? Like I used to love writing, and we did this
Right.
like normal writing, like we would just write blogs,
Right.
and it got really. I like doing it, and I like the research, and I loved all that stuff, but people don't pay attention to that anymore. So I
Right.
thought, the same way that people do these short form videos now, and they don't do the longer form stuff as much. That's like super popular with TikTok and all that. Why can't I just do that with writing?
Right.
So about almost a year ago, decided to start trying that a little bit. And I took some of my old writing and I just made it real short and to the point, and it just started taking off. So we went from, we would average 60, 70 million views a month between all those pages.
Wow.
And then from there, it just exploded. Now our average is around 300 million a month. And
Wow.
it's just absolutely huge. And it's been a lot of fun, a lot of fun. It's allowed me to go full time and just do all this research and really dive into topics. So
Right. That's awesome. You also either own or involved with a couple other businesses also, too. Just I see you.
yeah,
I see you with Dripfish Coffee and DeLong Lures.
it's actually Kill Shot Coffee,
Kill shot.
but
Kill
yeah.
shot. Sorry, I wrote down wrong there. Here.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's Kill Shot Coffee and DeLong Lures. DeLong is actually the guy who invented the rubber worm for fishing back in
Oh
1946.
yes.
He was neighbors with Nick Cream. So people still, because Cream is like in Walmart, they're still pretty big.
Okay.
That was his neighbor. And so that's kind of where the soft plastic industry started right here in Akron, Ohio. Like, I mean, it's just a couple. He lived a couple miles from where our shop is now.
Okay.
So we own that business. That's a lot of obviously making fishing lures and fishing and
That's
making fishing
awesome.
content. A lot of
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, I looked into a couple
Exactly.
of really cool jobs.
Yes, you do. Uh, Here lately, I've been seeing you diving into the murky world of non-government organizations, NGOs,
Mhm.
and when we say that, those of us that kind of pay attention to politics immediately think back to right after President Trump took office, and he had Elon Musk in there, chopping a bunch of money going to NGOs, and we think of all the crazy ones. But what you are dealing with and what you have been studying and uncovering are outdoor oriented NGOs.
Yes. So there's a really weird history here where once COVID hit and all that, there was a lot of government money. So a lot of it would just go to NGOs, which just means non-government organization. It's basically just a nonprofit.
Hmm.
However, there's a whole infrastructure of NGOs that are out there just meant to suck up government money and accomplish virtually nothing, or they're completely detrimental to the cause you want them to be advocating for.
Right.
Obviously, like you said, Elon Musk uncovered a lot of these in the healthcare space, and it was like all sorts of really wild stuff or overseas type of thing. But it's actually the NGO scam is going on in every industry across all levels of government, and it's even layered. So this is a little bit of a complicated topic to break down, but I think I've gotten better. Gotten better at explaining it. So imagine you have for one NGO I really don't like, and there's a very specific reason for it. The National Deer Association, formerly QDMA. I was a
Okay.
member.
Yep.
Now, they lost 97% of their annual paid memberships are gone. Hunters dropped them. They said, "Hey, you don't represent us." And they started getting government money. So they get about $6 million a year. And remember, these numbers are important because you'll see a pattern here. They'll get $6 million a year, mostly in government grants, and then the CEO makes, it's like 270,000 plus an extra 30,500. Again, I see the exact same numbers in these NGOs over and over and over because there's laws around how much they can pay themselves. Now they're collecting big fat $300,000 a year salaries with health insurance and paying for all their travel and
Right.
but what are they accomplishing with that money? Once the government starts funding the non-government organization, which I know is a contradiction in terms, how can you have a
Right.
government-funded non-government organization? Their customer is now the government. So they can't just buck the government. They can't say, "Oh, well, you're wrong about this," or we
Right.
don't agree with you here." That's their customer. When these hunting NGOs, when their customer was the hunters, they represented us. These NGOs that are just being funded by the government represent the government. And there's created a very big rift. Obviously, that leaks over into the CWD topic. That leaks over into probably the biggest threat to hunting today isn't hunter recruitment. It's actually NGOs pushing anti-hunters into the game agencies, and I
Right.
will get into that, I'm sure.
Yes.
I have very specific examples. I come with receipts on this stuff. So, but to explain the layers of this, it goes beyond just an NGO like the NDA just getting government money. It's a lot more than that. So the heads of all these NGOs, will use Wildlife Management Institute as an example. They've been around since 1911. They were formerly a really great organization. They did a lot of good work back, 100 years ago, but
Right.
now not so much. They basically set up, they're like the head of the beast on this thing. They help all the other NGOs get Pittman Roberts money.
Hmm.
Again, I know I'm going on a couple different side trails here, so and it's kind of hard to understand sometimes. But Pittman Roberts money is taxes that hunters pay. It's our license and tag money. It's all that's the money that they're using. Okay,
Right.
just I know most people probably know that, but just so that we know, it's hunting tax dollars that are paying for this. So
Hmm.
if you hunt, you are paying for this. Just remember that. Now, Wildlife Management Institute they get their grants, they get like everybody else, but then what they do is they go to other NGOs. Now, the heads of game agencies, say you're the head of Arizona's game agency or Ohio or whatever state you're the head of,
Right.
they will have all sorts of NGOs for when you get out, you get this big fat check that you sit at the top of. And here's how it works. There's like a national one. If I was on my computer, I could look it up on my phone. I forget what it's called, but it's like the National Game Agency NGO. And so there's like 8 people there. They're all getting paid. Then they have regional ones. So like there's one for the Western, the Northwest, like 6 states there. And
Yeah.
every head of their game agencies moves right in to be in the CEO. They collect their government pension and they get a $300,000 a year salary as long as they obey the government. Now,
Right.
each region has these. I mean, there's a whole network of these NGOs just for the people that run the game agencies and do as the government says. And
Right.
they don't listen to hunters at all. And that's the most important thing I think for people to realize is that they're being paid massive amounts of money collecting their pensions and getting $300,000 a year and all their travel paid for and their insurance and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That should raise some questions for people if that is your hunting tax dollars are paying for that. Because I'll tell you how those ones are funded. They're funded in 2 ways. There's two main sources of funding for these NGOs. You have the Pittman Roberts money and then state money.
Right.
So if you have a group of states, 6 states, the state budget will allocate money that goes directly to that NGO. Also, they'll get Pittman Roberts money, and then they all get rich off of our tax dollars. And let me ask anybody listening, just ask yourself this question: What have you even heard of those NGOs? I bet you nobody has. And if
Right.
you haven't heard of them, what are they doing for hunting? The answer is basically nothing except for collecting a salary. And they go to some events and they talk about things or they'll write reports, but nothing is happening with these NGOs on a regular basis.
That. Yeah. That's just amazing. I mean, the amount the amount of waste and some of the stuff I've been reading, you've been writing about. I mean, if everybody needs to jump on Rack Junkies and read what you're uncovering. And if it makes you mad the way it makes me mad, then uh, you struck the right nerve. If it makes you mad because, okay, that Steven's crazy, it's probably because you're taking a little bit of money there from one of these NGOs. And exactly,
Hey,
because
get
I
on my
don't, I,
comment section.
yeah,
Okay, this is important. Get in my comment section. Anybody who's critical of me on this stuff, click on their profile and look at it. It's always somebody that worked for the game agencies. A hundred
yes,
percent of the time. I haven't found anybody that didn't work for them and getting paid. So you're exactly right on that. Sorry for interrupting. I just had to throw that in
that's
there.
okay. No, you're exactly right. Uh, it's amazing that, like you said, when the people, I've paid attention to that, and I've read down through your comments, and and the guys that are just absolutely coming at you, like you said, you click on their profile, and they may be a biologist with a state game agency, or they may be with one of the NGOs that maybe not the one you're actually going after, but you're hitting a little close to home. They're probably thinking, okay, we're next. So yes,
And they probably are next.
yeah, good, good. Because this is the thing, one of the things I saw, uh, you know, I believed heavily in the Triple R program. Okay, that was
Mhm.
something that's been pushed by state game agencies. It's great. I got involved and really pushed it from a private side. Let's get people involved. Let's recruit. Let's retain, and that third one,
Reactivate.
reactivate.
Yep.
Reactivate. We've worked hard on the recruitment side, and it's a good program. But I think that was some of the start of this. All these NGOs, we want to get involved with the three R's. So send money our way.
Can I
And
ask you a question about that though? Because
sure,
I think I heard you before we started, and I know this is going to take us down a rabbit trail here, but with that app that you just came out with, you said
yes,
that you're going to have a hog hunting thing. You said also other species. Are you going to try to connect? Because I've seen a pattern here that I think most people don't realize. There's actually a lot of people with property that would let someone hunt, but
yes,
don't necessarily like they're not going to go find people to hunt.
right.
Is it going to be for deer too? Because I think that could be a huge, like a massive tool to getting more people into hunting.
We are working towards that. Yes, and
Okay, when you do that, let me know because that'd be huge for recruitment and
y-
reactivation.
yes, and one of the things we know, and like you said, we could probably delve off into this and talk for a while, but when our feral hog feature was a way we could try to help landowners because so many landowners want to get rid of hogs. We also know that there's a lot of landowners that need help, maybe with deer management. I mean, there's farmers out there that don't care what you hunt, and then there are leases that need help with antlerless management. And there are so many scouting apps, deer recovery apps. I mean, just all kinds of stuff like that. And our niche is that wildlife management. Let's teach people how to manage. Let's be good stewards, and let's find hunters a place to hunt, and let's crowdsource information so we can educate hunters. And so we're doing that on the private side. I try to tell people we're not trying to replace game agencies, but we believe there's a private need for that. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
for sure. And that's that. I think that that could be huge. One of the patterns that I see is people complaining about, well, nobody will come shoot does. But then at the same
yeah,
time, I see a bunch of people in the comments going, hey, where are you at? Like, let me go shoot some does. I think there's a lot of people that are
yes,
looking for places to hunt. We know that's like one of the biggest threats to hunting is just access. So
access.
if you on the private side can take those two things and actually like connect people, I think that's a fantastic idea. I'm excited about that.
Yes, and this is one of the things. I mean, I'm not a young guy anymore. I'm 54 years old, and I when I started hunting, I didn't have to worry about access. Didn't have to worry about it. I'd walk out my back door or down at my grandparents' farm, and I could walk all day and never see a posted sign, never see purple paint. And if I ran into anybody, they were doing, very friendly and would tell you where to go and find game, you know. It was just a different age. And now I believe, you know, so many people lease and post to keep people out, but there's still a lot of good people out there on both sides of the fence. Landowners looking for help, hunters looking for a place to go that are responsible hunters. And I think if we can get them hooked up, even on maybe one thing, maybe that'll blossom a friendship, and access will start picking up again. You know, may, everybody says hunting's going in a bad direction with hunters wanting to keep hunters out and leases and, you know, lawsuits over liability and everything. But I think we can get by this with some work. So
Yeah, and there's certain laws that protect landowners if you
yeah,
give people permission to hunt. And I mean, especially if we can help, you know, if that app like helps educate people, like, hey, look, this is the law. Like, you can't get sued for this. I mean, I
yeah,
think that's something that, in fact, I need to write that down so I write about it tomorrow.
yes,
You want to know
yes,
how I think of different things to write about? It's talking sometimes, you know.
that's right, that's right. But yeah, that's what that's the direction we're going to take our app, and hopefully we'll start getting people to download it and use it, and they'll see what direction we're going. We also have an EHD reporting function on there, and I just wanted to, you know, shout out people up in Wisconsin and Michigan. I'm hearing of some EHD cases. Download that app, you know, contact your local DNR and let them know what's going on, but also put it in the app. It puts a heat map on, and like last year in Washington County, Ohio, which isn't far from me, just a little south of you.
Mhm.
If we would have had a function like that, you know, hunters were spreading all kinds of information. Some of it was good information, some of it was misinformation. But you could have seen on this app real time where the hot spots are. And we also will share this info with the appropriate DNRs that need the info if they're not getting a full picture from what they're gathering. So, I mean, we're all about you know, conserving and managing what we have and making it better for the next generation.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah. So
Sorry, I just had to go down that. When you were
no,
talking about it before we started, I'm like, I got to bring this up because
I
I
know.
want to know. Like, this
I
is great.
appreciate it. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. And I was saying, you know, we're going live on the App Store tomorrow, which is going to be great. And some I've had a couple guys tell me they're seeing it on Google Play, but if they aren't, you know, they can on your Android, you can long download it at longspur.app. So, um, so
NGOs, that's where we were.
NGOs, how much hate? I mean, are you getting like death threats from this, or just hate mail, or
Oh,
what's
yeah.
going on the side?
Yeah, yeah. The death threat thing is happens occasionally still. I mean, that's
Yeah,
um I mean, if you hunt, you're going to get that, but you typically get it from anti-hunters, and now you're
right.
getting it from random account. I've had some strange things. My businesses have been audited. I've had people from the DNR show up and just want to talk. I've
Yeah,
had some very strange phone calls. Those sorts of things are happening. It's almost kind of weird to, you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but when you know you push the buttons of the government, and next thing you
yes,
know, you have a DNR officer show up at your shop just to chat unofficially, and you're like, it was very strange. Then your businesses get audited. Then I mean, like all this stuff happens. You go, whoa, 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 hold on, wait a second.
right,
This is what they talk about happening, but I can't believe it's actually happening to me right now. So I'm always hesitant to say, you know, because you don't know like who made that happen. It's not a coincidence. I don't think most people would think it's a coincidence, but I'm one of these guys that like I need hard evidence. So whenever people talk conspiracies, I'm always like, I need more evidence.
right,
But then this stuff starts happening to you personally, and you're like, well, I mean, this can't be a coincidence. So that stuff has happened. But you know, I've got some big names behind me. Obviously, you've seen me. I wrote an article for Hunter Nation today.
yes,
I work with them. You know, Keith Mark over there is, I mean, he's a big shot attorney. He's a super smart guy.
yes,
You know, he's got Don Jr. and Ted Nugent and, you know, Craig Moore. He's got big names behind him. You know, and
yes,
those people, you know, I met Ted Nugent not that just a couple weeks ago, and he said, he's like, hey, I got your back. You know, and I was like, man, I really appreciate that because the pressure starts coming when you start messing with people's money,
right.
even if they're stealing it. You know, they get loud and they get mean, and
Right.
Yeah, that's happening.
Exactly. Um, so one of the things you mentioned there a little bit ago that you're seeing spinning out of this government money going into NGOs is also where they're placing anti-hunters into positions of power throughout different states in game agencies, on boards, on commissions. Um, can you explain a little bit about what you're finding out with that?
Yeah, so there's kind of a funny side that's a sad funny side, and then like a very serious side. The kind of the funny side to me is I read one grant in particular. I posted the grant number online. I don't have it memorized, but the grant was basically saying that they needed to have DEI inside of the game agencies. Okay, there's a bunch of this. Now they will call it relevancy roadmaps. That's what they'll call it, but
Okay.
that's a way of dressing up DEI. And their justification is, well, there's not enough hunters to fund the system. It's
Right.
like, okay, well, okay, fine. But their solution is to get people who don't hunt, anti-hunters, into the game agency. But what does that how does that solve the problem? Because it doesn't. Anti-hunters aren't buying bows that are paying Pittman Roberts taxes.
Right.
The crazy cat lady down the road isn't actually in there have a she's not buying a hunting license, because she's not hunting. So getting these people into the game agencies doesn't actually solve the funding problem that they use as their excuse to do this.
Right.
Now, I'll give you one example of an actual grant that took place. This is up by me. This is up in Cleveland, just west of Cleveland. There was a grant where they had $30,000 to get, they wanted more Black and Latino people to be interested in hunting.
Okay.
So what they did is they built what was called a pollinator. So it was an old abandoned building. They spent like $30,000. They knocked the whole thing down and they planted flowers. Now, I listen. I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody who's sitting there in downtown Cleveland playing basketball, looks at their friend and goes, "Hey, man, you want to go look at the butterflies with me? Yeah, let's go buy a hunting license next." Like
Yeah.
none of that tracks. It doesn't even make any logical
No.
sense. It's not meant to solve the problem. It's meant to take the game agencies and our funding and divert it away from hunter-based solutions, hunter-first solutions, and
Right.
give it to all these other people. And their justification just doesn't work. That's a real grant. It was $30,000. There was no maintenance of that program, by the way. They had no funding to maintain it. So it was just gonna, I bet I'm actually gonna go up there hopefully next week. I'm gonna drive up and see what it looks like.
Okay.
And if it's like, full of needles and all run down, you guys are gonna see some really crazy posts coming out, but which I suspect is what's happening. But I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it.
Right.
So that's the relevancy roadmap. That's the thing that people need to just keep that. People need to remember those words, relevancy roadmap, because they're gonna be. I'm getting out ahead of this one. Okay,
Okay.
now, so one of the things in that in a particular grant said that they needed to not just diversify inside the game agencies, but in all sorts of ways. So it wasn't just like, hey, we need African Americans, Latinx. They use the word Latinx, which I know is hilarious whenever I see that in grants. But
Right.
also they said non-binaries. One of the categories, and I have it highlighted in this grant, they wanted to have, I think it was 1.5% non-binaries in the game agencies, which includes biologists.
Oh, jeez.
They spent your hunting tax dollars, your Pittman Roberts tax dollars, to say that we need non-binary biologists working for the game agencies. Okay, like that's what this money goes towards. and
Oh
and you
gosh.
can I've posted the grants online. You can see them. It's all right there. That's
Right.
the funny side of it. That's the, like you mentioned earlier, you said, well, Elon Musk found all this crazy stuff. That's the kind of stuff he was finding.
Yes.
But that's not the scary part, though. The
Mm-hmm.
scary part is what you'd mentioned before I started this part of the conversation, is that they are advocating for anti-hunters to be in the game agencies in leadership. Now, they're going to dress this up and they're going to try to make you think, oh, no, 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 that's not what we're doing. We don't want just traditionalists. We want
Right.
mutualists, right? They're called mutualists. Well, that's
Okay.
just another word for somebody that doesn't approve of hunting. Like they can say that they're not a full anti-hunter, but it's somebody that does not approve of using consumptive based hunting. So shooting animals to eat them. They think that is wrong. They want those people in leadership in the game agencies. Okay. Now, that sounds bad enough, but it's just a grant. So what is the actionables here? If
Hmm.
they're just talking about it, then okay, what they're not getting anything done. But they are getting a lot of actual things done, including my state of Ohio went.
Hmm.
I believe West Virginia went. So in that same grant, they came up with this whole plan of all they wanted 30 to 35% anti-hunters in, or they call them mutualists, but in the game agencies. Then they set up an entire program with slides. You can look at the slides online, and it teaches people how to hire non-hunters, how to diversify your hiring process, right? Like, I mean, that's what they're dressing it up, but it's to hire anti-hunters and people who don't approve of hunting. And they have an entire seminar on it, and a bunch, 22 different states went to this seminar where that money was used to teach your game agencies how to hire non-hunters and anti-hunters into the game agencies. That was like 200, and I think that one was 270,000, I believe, for that one
Wow.
grant.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And you know, and this is what I mean, sometimes it leaves you speechless, okay? This is this is something, you and I were talking before we came on air, and about West Virginia and their game commission. Our current governor, man, he appointed let's see, 4 seats on the game commission that were open, and 2 of the appointees he put on there never hunted, or never had hunted and never had fished in West Virginia. The one lady had saltwater experience. Never, I haven't done the Freedom of Information Act yet. Our I can explain a little bit. With our livelihood, we do count. We do got to work with DNR to have an outfitter's license to be able to track wounded game in West Virginia for a fee. And but I've taken some stances that have been contrary to DNR, so I know where you're kind of coming from. That weird things happen. That's not coincidence when you take a stand. And one of the stands we took was these game commissioners that are being appointed, and I'm going to point it out, by a Republican governor who's supposed to be a conservative, hey, man of the people and everything, but he's not a West Virginian. He's not a hunter. He's not a fisherman. He's being advised poorly about who to put on the game commission. And it's people that have wrote him big checks that have no experience, but they just need a place to sit on these commissions. And unfortunately, I don't think he did it on purpose to put non-hunters, or I can't really call any of them anti-hunters. They haven't showed that yet, but it could come. Um, but he didn't. I don't think he even, talked with the sportsmen, any of the major player sportsmen's groups in West Virginia. We do have a West Virginia Deer Association, Bear Association, the National Wild Turkey Federation is involved heavily in West Virginia. And they did not talk with any of these organizations or any of the big clubs like the Isaac Walton League or any of these clubs that are out there that could say, hey, this individual over here has put 20 years into conservation in West Virginia. They live the hunting lifestyle. They're a trapper or they're a bear hunter, or this person needs to be on the commission. Nobody visited those places and got anything. In fact, um, we had we had a gentleman that was president of our West Virginia Deer Association, and he had interviewed to be a commissioner and had gotten to the point where he had to resign as the Deer Association president to take the position, and they ended up giving it to another gentleman that had wrote the governor a big check. So, wow. So we pointed this out, and you were saying you got audited. We're seeing, and I call it a hush money scam going on right now in West Virginia, and I got to do some pulling on that. To get a sponsorship, if you were a TV show or a social media influencer, or you had a YouTube, was almost an impossibility in the state of West Virginia. The West Virginia DNR only sponsored 1 or 2 shows for several years. And then all of a sudden, here the last few months, influencers that we work with, that we're close with, that we do collaborations with all of a sudden started getting sponsorships from DNR. And I finally had one of them tell me, uh, about his conversation with the committee he had to go in front of and the director of DNR. And one of them was, "Hey, you can't be hanging out with that Longspur guy." you know?
Oh, I
So,
believe that 100%.
yep,
Yeah.
hush money is paid. Things happen. You will get audited. Uh, you will have conservation officers show up and look at everything you do. Um, so it believe me, and you're doing it on a bigger level, so I feel for you.
Yeah, and West Virginia is not the only state where your commissioners are just write big checks to the governor and then they get on those commissions. Like
Yeah,
that happens across the whole country. People
yeah,
like it's actually I didn't know about it till like 6 months ago, but it's every state. It's just like a known thing. Like that's how you get those positions. It's not about
yes,
being qualified. It's about giving money to the governor. And
right,
I don't know that there's any states that aren't doing that. But I haven't looked at all of them. But all the ones I've looked into, you find this money
right.
everywhere.
It
But yeah, the government money is paid, and I will also say that these DNRs are starting to pay. In Missouri, Jason Sumner's called it. He's going to pay friendly influencers, and so these DNRs. And can you guess how many sponsorships I've been offered from DNRs?
exactly. Yep,
Zero, and I wouldn't take them anyway. In fact, I don't even have sponsors. I
right.
get 300 million views a month, and I don't have a single sponsor. I'm
Th-
like, because I'm going to cover everything, and I'm not going to worry about anybody says. And
right,
I'm not against sponsors. I want to be clear. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, what? You're just bashing people's sponsors." I'm not. I'm not even
right,
saying I'd never have a sponsor. Just it's got to be real specific for what I'm doing.
right. Exactly. Exactly. For those of you out there in the audience this evening watching, we're with Steven Ziegler, Rack Junkies on Facebook. If you do have questions, please start getting them in. I mean, I'm sure some of you are sitting out there shaking your head, and if you can form it into a question, we'll run it by Steven and we'll try to answer them. So, Steven, I know one of the things you like you were talking about your Hunter Nation appearance today on Facebook that you wrote a blog for them uh, about voting and how important it is as a sportsman. And
Yes.
one of the things you did, we're going to have to look at our children and tell them whether we got involved or not as
That's
hunters.
right. And that's what so I'm involved in the political world too. So this has gotten so big. Like I get calls pretty much every day or close to every day during the week from state representatives, state senators, because I've plastered people's faces all over social media and got millions of views, and politicians get real scared about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Um, so I mean, it's not. I had somebody call. I get cussed out all the time by these people, but at the same time, there's encouraging news here too. I don't want to just be some doomer. There's some good news here. With what I'm doing now, I've had in West Virginia specifically, I was writing about the open fields doctrine,
Yes.
and I was looking at JB Akers, one of your representatives, and I wasn't
Yes.
happy that he didn't pass some of that open fields doctrine. And for people that don't know, because everyone's always shocked when I explain this, it is legal for game wardens to go on your property that is posted and locked and put trail
Yes.
cameras up on there, cellular cams. They can hide in ghillie suits and watch you. That's all perfectly legal without a warrant, which
Yeah.
most people are like, I even talked to state representatives who will be like, wait, that can't be right. Like there's no way. Like the Fourth Amendment protects that. And you're like, no, I'm telling you, most state politicians don't even know this. So in West Virginia, I wasn't happy they didn't pass it. So then I kind of wrote something kind of bad about JB Akers. Then he called me, and it was only the third time I've ever taken down a post because I felt like I was unfair. And I like, if somebody asked me to take something down, I just want to leave it up even more. And he didn't
Right.
ask me to, but I felt I was unfair. So I did the right thing on that. But I was kind of critical of him. And he goes, look, we got cameras in West Virginia. The game wardens are no longer allowed to take cameras and hide them on your property. I was like, okay, that's good, but well, what's next? He's like, well, next is to get that they have to get a warrant to come on your property. And he had some concerns because there was a couple bills in West Virginia put forward that it would have made it very difficult under any circumstance to come on a property, even if somebody was injured, and he wanted to get that right. So I've
Right.
talked with a bunch of people in the House of Delegates, 5 or 6 of them, and then I've talked with one of the senators over there. I forget. But they're all like, no, no, no. This is going to be pushed forward. We didn't even think that this was that big of a deal to people, but after the Pennsylvania case came down, I started
Yeah.
writing about it, and I mean, every post was 5 million views. Everybody was talking about it. So
Yes.
now that pressure is used to the state level politicians, and they go, "Oh, this is what the hunters care about." Social media can do that. Social media can be used for good.
Yes.
And now next time they said that they're going to try to get even more Fourth Amendment protection. I mean, JB Akers was great to talk to. I mean, he was a
Yeah.
very smart guy, and like explained to me like, look, I would have. He's like, I had no clue that people were going to be this upset about it. We got half of that done, and yeah, I
Hmm.
want to see more of this done. So, but yeah,
Well,
then I wrote another article like, hey, this is actually a really good dude. He's actually like on the side of hunters. He's on the
yeah.
side of the constitutional freedoms and stuff. So that was great.
Yeah. One of the things I've learned working with the legislature here in West Virginia, and I'm sure it's the same in other states, that it's a process. It doesn't happen this year
Hmm.
normally. Um, Anytime we try to introduce a bill that we feel will benefit sportsmen, it takes usually two legislative cycles. So, and we don't have a full time legislature here. They only have a 60-day session each spring. So, short time window. You got to get it done. Introduce it in election year if it has any controversy to it, but they agree with it. They're not going to pass it. But come back the next year in an off year and they'll pass it. So
Hmm.
you just
Yeah.
have to learn who to talk to and how to talk to them. So it kind
And
of
you got to
sounds
push
what,
in the right places.
yeah.
Like you got to push on the committee chairs. Is one person can kill an entire bill, even if it's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
And once you learn that, you're like, whoa! I thought this was I thought that this was a representative democracy. They're all going to vote. No, no, no. One person can kill any
Yeah.
bill, especially if the speaker wants it done. It's
Yeah.
it's a crazy system.
Yeah. And you go, I mean, exactly. You got to make friends with those, especially what we do, the natural resources chairs.
Hmm.
You got to be good friends with them, or you're not getting anywhere. I mean, that they like you said they can kill, and I've seen it happen. We when we wrote the West Virginia drone recovery bill to allow drones to do deer recovery, we were very specific on it. We didn't want to turn into the wild wild west, which that's what we call Ohio over there, because you all have a drone behind every tree. Okay,
Oh yeah.
so uh, there were people coming in and trying to add amendments to this bill, and I had a sit down with the natural resources chair, and I had my young daughter JC with me. She was 9 years old, and I told the chair, I said, this just isn't good. This, what this other delegate is asking for is going against the whole spirit of the bill. And he said, is it that bad? And I gave him some scenarios. I can't remember exactly how what, but basically it would allow people to hunt with drones the way it was worded. And he said, well, if it's that bad, it needs to die. He said, give me 30 seconds. And he wrote something out on his letterhead there. And he said, come on. We walked down the long hallway there in the Capitol to the other delegate's office. And he stepped inside and he said, your amendment's dead. Handed him that piece of paper. And basically, they dropped that amendment. Yeah,
Nice.
those chairs, those chairmen are very powerful. You get them on your side,
Hmm.
you can do a lot of good. Um, um, some of the, I mean, but as you were talking about voting, if we
Oh
don't
yeah.
vote, we don't show up. It's nobody's fault but ours, and then we got to look our kids in the eyes and say, you know what, I never did vote when I was younger, and
Hmm.
maybe today that's why we don't have hunting. You know, um,
Yeah. And imagine not having those memories like I have those memories with my daughter and my son that are like some of my best memories. I have them with my
Yes.
dad and with my grandma that have both passed away now. And when my daughter and my son are my age, I want them to have that with their kids. And I want to have that with my
Yes.
grandkids one day. I'm only 38, my daughter's 15, my oldest. So it's like I'm a ways off from there, but you got to be thinking that far ahead. And if you're not even
Yes.
willing to do the bare minimum of just going to vote, like that's like you say if you say you care. My mom always told me actions speak louder than words, and I'm
Right.
telling you, if you're not doing the bare minimum, your actions are speaking louder than your words. And it's I think that a lot of people are would be surprised to learn how little pressure it takes to make a difference with a state representative or with a
Yes.
state senator. One Facebook message, just commenting on their posts, they
Yes.
read those things. Politicians are scared to death of social media because that's if things go sideways for them on social media, they can lose elections, they lose power, they lose they lose donors, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So I think if you see something, follow your state rep, find out who it is, follow them, comment, let them know that you care about hunting. Same thing with your
Yes.
state senator, because on a state level, that's where you have the most influence. Once you start getting out to Washington, those people aren't paying attention to you.
No.
So like really focusing on the state and
No.
like that's what I do. Like I'm actually campaign manager right now for State Rep Heidi Workman. She's the best state rep in the country, in my opinion, and she's right here. So like you can get involved, you can help them out, or you can just comment, and that little bit of
Right.
pressure goes a long, long way.
Yes. I agree 100%. The more localized you can be, and if you want to get involved in the state level, yeah, you're not going to change. Usually, you're not going to change a governor's mind. Um, they're too busy dealing with 55 different things. Okay, but that state rep is your local, should be your local friend. I try to make friends with them. Our senator here that's actually the chair of the Senate Natural Resources Committee. I mean, I look to him as a mentor in life, and he's always treated me like one of his kids, which I appreciate that. And we've had some great discussions. We haven't always agreed, and there's been times he's told me, "I'm not going to run your bill that you're bringing down here this year," but become friends with these people and get involved. And at the very least, go vote. I mean, I've had hunters tell me, well, I don't vote because I get that day off work. I don't go vote because I'm in the tree stand. That's during the rut. Yeah,
I know what a horrible time to have an election during the middle of the rut. I
I
get it,
know,
man.
I know. But it only takes maybe an hour out of your day total. I know some of the cities can be harder to get into, but out here in the country, it don't take us long to get in there and vote. So just go do it and be informed about it. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on this evening. I just love the level of information that you bring to people through Rack Junkies. So, and
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, like most of my day is spent like reading government documents. Like it could be a court decision or it's a law that was passed, or I'll read like scientific research. Like that's most of what my day is. So
mm-hmm.
I actually get this question from some younger people who are like content creators, like, man, that looks like so much fun. Like that's like your job is like you just sit there and just make money. It's like, no, dude, like my day is spent reading research. Like you would hate this. I like it, that's what I like doing.
Right.
But there's a lot there, and I'm just blessed and fortunate to be able to do like dedicate all of my time to this now.
Yes.
And it's been because that's what it takes. And think about like just even you were talking about FOIA a little bit ago, Freedom of Information Act. Getting those requests takes like 8 or 9 months, and you have to file them, and then you have to give amendments to, like, you have to resend them, and on
Yeah.
state level too. It's a lot of work to keep track of all of it and to get those to find what you're looking for.
Yes.
But I'm looking, and like you said, even before that about the NGOs, I'm looking into all of them. If it's
Right.
public money, I'm gonna know eventually.
Good. Good. Um, you were saying, and I think this is a good route to take. People will say, "Oh man, look at you, Stephen. You just get to sit there and post on Facebook and just people don't realize that when you do this, when you commit yourself to be really good at being a content creator, whether it's blogging or video, YouTube. It doesn't matter what it is. If you dedicate yourself to it, it's 24/7, 365. I mean, it's yeah. You're basically it's like the old saying, you quit a 40-hour job to go to work 80 hours a week. So
That's exactly. I'm just fortunate that I have the other businesses and things like that. So,
yes,
I was able to jump into this full time, because this is what I love doing. And I try to always be, actually this conversation came to be because of a post I put up telling people that disagreed with me, like, hey, if you have a podcast or you disagree with
yes,
me, like, let me know, like, have me on, let's have these discussions, let's talk about the areas we disagree on so we can get through this. And I got zero calls from anybody.
yeah,
There's a couple people like you that reached out, like, dude, I'd love to have you on, let's talk about what you're writing. So that's
yeah.
how this conversation came to be, and I appreciate you having me on. This is
Well,
a really
I
cool podcast.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. Hey, let's talk drones for a second. I know you've wrote a
Okay.
little bit about drones. How much should they be involved in hunting? I mean, those of us that follow us, I mean, full disclosure, we use them here heavily for deer recovery. We also use them for wildlife management, but they also know how stringent we are as a company. We tell our drone pilots, don't be don't be using them for scouting. Don't let your hunters talk you into, well, just go over here and look on this part of the farm while you're looking for my deer. We don't do that. But that's becoming a big thing in hunting. I mean, we're seeing people getting caught. We're seeing lines being drawn. What do you think? What's your take?
So for recovery, I used a drone to recover my daughter's deer this last year. We lost blood. It was still a good shot, but fall, you can't find the blood. It plugged up. It ran
Mm.
it only single lunged it, so it ran a lot further than we expected. And my deer, I would have just gone and looked for it. But it was my daughter,
Right.
15. She's my daughter. I'm going to spend money to go get a drone. I'm not taking chances with her deer.
Right.
And it was a nice big 10 point. And the guy that came out, he flew the drone up, he went right out there. We told him what happened, and he's going over there, and he stops and he turns on his drone, he's looking at a couple deer, and then he zooms in on one, because there's a deer bedded down, then there was this huge buck in our field. Like this
Mm.
huge, like this, it was a 180-inch deer. It was the deer that I was targeting.
Right.
And he goes, yo, that's a big deer. And then he flew over and like immediately found the deer. He lit up every deer on that property. So I'm like, dude, I know where everything's at. When
Right.
he showed the picture of that, when he showed the picture, when he zoomed in on that big 180-inch buck, I looked at my business partner, Aaron. I said, if I went and grabbed that crossbow right there and I set up on that fence, I bet you anything he's going to walk right along that fence line and he'd give us a shot right going behind the neighbor's back fence where she has her horses.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. We laughed about it. He found the deer, came back. He goes, hey, I wonder if you're right about that deer. He flies the drone over, and as he flies the drone, it's going right where I said it was going.
Oh my.
And if I would have shot a 180-inch buck. It would have been completely unfair. But
Mm-hmm.
so my stance on it, and my whole stance is based off that one experience, seeing like how incredible drones are.
Right.
Because for deer recovery, I think that's fantastic. We don't want to waste meat.
Right.
I would love to see less deer wasted. So we get the deer. I think it's all great for recovery. I'm fine with it for scouting and that sort of stuff. I mean, we hang trail cams up, we're scouting from fields, all
Yeah.
that. I mean, I'm fine with it. But for hunting, like you said, there's a line there, and it's unfair if you use a drone to hunt, because I could kill the biggest
Yeah.
buck on my property day one if I used a drone. And so that's where I think the line should be drawn,
Well,
personally.
and I hear drone pilots, they complain all the time. Well, we don't want any more laws or restrictions, and I'm like, okay, and we just had Dan Infalt on last week from up in Wisconsin, and up there it's legal to shine the fields at night to scout with a spotlight, as long as you don't have
Really?
weapons with you. No weapons. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, if you could do that, what's the as long as you don't have weapons with you, can you scout with a drone? You know, uh, I'm kind of old school. Yeah, I have a drone. I am a drone pilot. I'm an old guy. I use it for that. I use it for some other, we do lost pet recovery stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I'm like, I can leave it on the ground. I'm fine with hunting without scouting with it. Now, do I like looking at bucks, especially this time of year? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I love putting it up about this time of the evening and flying and seeing what's out there, you know. But as far as planning a hunt with it, like putting it up in the air and saying, "Oh, I got to make this move, and this move, and I'll kill that deer." Yeah, but in so many states, as long as that drone is on the ground before you go in the field, you're legal. So you can like scout a hunt, go do it, and you're legal as long as that drone's not in the air. And there's so many fine lines out there. I don't, I don't know. I don't know. So a lot of people look at them as evil. A
Yeah.
lot of people look at drone pilots like, abuse. And this is one thing. It can be abused because of airspace. Airspace is federal airspace. It's open area. So yeah, we can't. We don't want game wardens coming on our property because of open fields. But as a drone pilot, legally, I can fly over your hunting lease and count, your deer and
Hmm.
know what's there. Um, but I think uh, most good drone pilots don't do that kind of stuff because they're professionals.
Yeah, and it's a lot tougher of a problem to solve than I think people realize, because where
Right.
do you draw the line? Is it, hey, once you land that drone, you're not hunting anymore, now you can go out? Or is it,
Right.
hey, you got to wait 24 hours?
Yeah.
Well, if you do that, like with my daughter, she went out and shot that one deer. Well, now you took away the next day of hunting for my cousin with his son. So I
Right.
mean, so where do you draw the lines, and how do you, I mean, it's a tougher problem to solve than people realize,
Right.
because you want to give people as much opportunity, but you also want to keep fair chase.
Right.
Those are some tough calls to make.
Yeah. I know Virginia, when we wrote the West Virginia drone recovery bill, we mirrored Virginia, which would have made it illegal to hunt the property that you're flying until sunrise the next morning. Okay, so,
Hmm. Well,
um, but Virginia is, I mean, they're pretty stringent on, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a 50-acre parcel or a 10,000-acre lease. If you fly that property, all hunting is ceased. So on a lease, is that really like fair to all the other, members that may be spread throughout? But anyways, yeah, our legislature dropped that part out. They didn't want to, you know, create more red tape for people to jump through. So, yeah, uh, we take a look at it and we're careful with it. We don't want to be hunting with a drone. Um, we saw it happen last year here with recovery teams and other recovery teams, not ours.
mhm.
And it's I just wish people would police themselves a little more and instead of
Yes. And
pushing the
I
lines.
think that the vast majority of hunters are good, and they don't poach, and
Yes.
they don't try to, and they always try to follow the law as closely as they can, and most people are like that. But you have the poachers out there. There's going to be, even if it's just, I mean, I would bet you it's less than 1% that are out there doing bad things. But when
Right.
they do bad things, the hunting community comes down on them hard. I mean, I,
Yes.
I write about poaching cases all the time, and the game wardens are getting clever at catching people,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to highlight that stuff. Sometimes I worry, like, oh, well, I don't want to post too much about poaching because I don't want people to have the perception that there's a ton of it, because
Right.
I don't believe that it's as bad as people think it is. But at the same time, you need people to know you're going to get caught. Like, the game wardens
Right.
are actually very good at catching people. They don't even need this open fields doctrine stuff.
No.
That's another topic. But like, they do have clever ways, and you can always invite the game warden on your property if somebody's breaking the law or somebody's
Yeah.
trespassing. So yeah, it's an interesting part of what I do with the poaching stuff. But I don't think
Yeah.
it's as bad as most people perceive it.
And like you said, the game wardens, they don't even need the open fields doctrine anymore. Well, one of the reasons are is so many of today's modern poachers turn out to be content creators, or they think they are. And I know you just had that case up in Ohio. That was in the Columbus area, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just incredible. I mean, every deer those guys had killed over a 3 year time or 3 or 4 year time period was illegal, was poached. And they also came out and said some of those were killed with the aid of a drone. So
Oh, I didn't see that part yet. That's
yes,
interesting.
Mike Yoder just did a, a podcast on that. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, you'll have to look that up.
I will.
Um,
I will. That's interesting because those guys were. I mean, and that's the worst side of social media for hunting, right there. Is
yeah,
people that want to get famous and
yes,
they want to take the easy way out. Like I said,
yeah,
as a content creator, most of my day is reading government documents. Okay,
yeah,
like most of it's not glamorous. I don't even do the hunting thing on social media. Like I don't even put my hunts up there. I mean, little
right,
clips and stuff, but I don't fully film hunts. I don't. I mean, I wouldn't want that pressure myself because I know the
right,
pressure that you're under to create content, especially if you're trying to make it. Ah, man, that pressure is just not good. And
yeah,
those kids were young too. I mean, old
yeah,
enough to know better, but I think they were like in their early 20s.
yeah. They weren't very old, but my goodness, like you said, old enough to know better.
Hmm.
Uh, we had Jared say social media is one of the biggest ways poachers get caught, and that is
Yes.
true anymore. Yeah.
Hmm. So
Um,
actually, you know what's something interesting? I talked to an ODNR officer. This was years ago. They went and people are kind of surprised when they hear this, but the telecheck. So we used to go down and look, I miss it as much as everybody listening to this, but
hmm.
you used to go down to the gas station, check in your
Yep.
deer, get your metal tag, and everybody'd sit there, pat you on the back, and it was like a cool thing. Whoever shot their first deer would buy ice cream. We had the whole tradition. But
Right.
when they switched to telecheck, the thought was that more people were going to get away with poaching, but the exact opposite happened because
Yeah.
poachers would just call in their kills. Then a landowner would say, "Hey, somebody's shooting after dark. Somebody's trespassing," and then they would put two and two together, and they knew exactly where to look because these people were checking in their deer, and they could find them so easily. And now social media is making it even easier because
Right.
most of the poachers are putting their stuff online, which it's like, if like I guess I mean it always surprises me every time I see one of these posts where somebody gets busted for poaching and the video's online, everything's online. But it's just I mean, if I
Yeah.
was a game warden, I'd just sit on Facebook and wait to catch people.
I think some of them do that. I mean,
I think they do.
yeah. I this summer I was moving dirt piles on our property, smoothing out some dirt piles. I uncovered a snapping turtle's nest, and we're always doing educational reels and shorts on our page. And I'm a biologist by education, so I showed the snapping turtle's nest, and I moved it. I actually showed moving it, and our local conservation officer called me. I was like, "What's he calling me for?" Like the next day, and I answered it, and he said, "Hey, you know why I'm calling about that famous game warden line? Hey, you know why I'm here? You know what I'm calling about?" I said, "No, I don't. What in the world?" He said, "Well," he said, "somebody saw you on social media move that turtle's nest, and they turned you in for disrupting the reptile's nest." And I said, "I was doing work. I mean, a turtle chose a terrible place to lay her eggs." And I said, "I moved them." And he said, "Oh, I know you did." He said, "I just had to make contact so I could tell Charleston that I made contact." It's like, so people are watching all the time. You will not get away. Yeah, I mean, no matter how smart you think you are, somebody's watching. Somebody's gonna pick something out. Uh, yeah,
They really are, and they're getting better at it. And you know what? That's
yes,
good. Good. If you're cheating, you should get caught.
yeah. I Jared also said, "I want those old metal tags back." I
And me
know.
and me and him both do.
I think I think it may have been New Hampshire. I just saw this the other day where the hunters wanted those metal tags so bad that now New Hampshire's going to sell their excess tags just to sell so you can put one on your deer as a
That's a good
fundraiser.
move.
Yeah.
I bet no, that's a great idea actually. I bet you a lot of people would pay to get their metal tag for their deer. I would almost guarantee it.
Yes. Yeah. I remember looking at one of my buddies that always had several Ohio bucks mounted when I was younger, and every one of them had that metal tag on. And he said, "Oh, they tell you right there at the check station that's never to come off the antlers, never to come off
Hmm.
the antlers." Like, okay, sounds pretty cool. Um, we miss the old check stations here in West Virginia. They always just gave us a paper check slip, unfortunately. Uh, but when you're killing the caliber of bucks over in Ohio, uh, that metal tag's a little better to have on there. And maybe that's a good segue into one more topic here. Um, what I mean, what do you think of all the horn obsession? Let's just call it that antler obsession that goes on in hunting now, where people are just constantly on social media shaming each other. They're not. It's just crazy. I mean, just what's some of your take on some of that that's going on?
So my take is that some of it's good. I know that people are going to be shocked to hear that, and I'm not saying that the shaming part is good because that's obviously it's dumb.
Right.
It's, eh, but also I think that the reason why we measure antlers, like there was a very specific reason for it. Teddy Roosevelt, Boone and Crockett Club goes all the way back to
Yes.
then. They wanted to measure these deer, see their how healthy they are, and that's I don't think that it's a problem to want to chase older bucks. I would prefer to chase older bucks myself. The
Mm-hmm.
problem comes in when you take it from this is what I want to do to this is what you have to do.
To do.
So
Yes.
exactly, like if someone wants to shoot a smaller buck, like in Ohio, I like the 1 buck rule that we have here in Ohio. We have big bucks.
Yes.
You get to do with your tag what you want to do with it. You see a 6 point, then guess what? You get to shoot that 6 point. If you want to wait, like I typically do, then you can. Like my
Right.
daughter, when I'm hunting with kids, obviously they shouldn't. I don't know if there's a state that has antler point restrictions for kids. I think that they
Right.
do, but I think that any kid should shoot any deer they want at any time, even on the lease
Right.
that I'm on. We only hunt big bucks on one of my mom has property, and then I have this big lease I'm on. It's like there's certain rules around what size deer you're allowed to shoot. However, the owner says if anybody's taking their kid down, they can shoot whatever deer they want, no questions asked. He said, I don't care if you shoot a goat, like just you shoot the smallest, you shoot a little spike. Those
Right.
kids are allowed to shoot anything, and that is, I
Right.
think, the best case scenario for things. But with chasing bigger antlers, you can make the argument for, hey, we're going to have a better, more well-rounded herd. We're going to have a better age structure of bucks. That leads
Yes.
to better reproduction. That leads to more deer. That leads to more opportunity. That's all good.
Right.
However, like you were saying about the shaming part, I see that a little bit online where, and you know what, I actually think that the opposite is more. I think your perspective is taken over, and mine, and I share that perspective. That hey, stop shaming people. I think that is the overwhelming majority of people now. You have a
Yes.
few podcasts, a few people, a few content creators that are still in that boat where they'll say, you shouldn't be allowed to, you shouldn't be allowed to do anything that I'm not doing, right? Like that tends to be the standard. If I want to hunt 150 plus inch bucks, everybody should hunt 150
Right.
plus inch bucks. And that's where you completely lose me. And I think 99% of people, I think that the rational people like me and you, I think we won out on that debate now.
Right.
And it's just a couple of loudmouths left at this point.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the education factor going on, um, it has picked up so much across the country. I mean, back when I was younger, it was if it's brown, it's down. Pull the trigger. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter. And of course, now, and the big thing here in West Virginia back in the day was even our DNR to this day will still tell us, well, we don't have the genetics here to match what Ohio's doing. Of course, and that's the thing we got to be careful as hunters is not looking at other states and say we want to be that state. We want to be the best that we can be with our deer herd. But if you apply some management techniques here, which is not pulling the trigger on every deer or every buck, pulling the trigger on does
Yes.
and get some good minerals into them, you're going to grow some nice deer. I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at, and it works. And if you work hard, you can do good. And as long as you are happy with what you're doing, doesn't matter what the guy next to you is doing.
Yeah. And that kind of thinking always goes into, and I have no clue what your perspective on this is, but it goes into the crossbows versus compounds
Yeah.
versus recurves. And it's one of those things where I think that this is an important topic to talk about because I think everybody looks at it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about compounds versus crossbows, I use a crossbow or a recurve. I use one or
Yeah.
the other, and so I kind of go to both extremes. But I talked to a guy who's really high up with Pope and Young, Justin Springs. He's is good guy. I met him at an SCI show. We had dinner together, and he made a good point to me. He said, because I said, hey, look, let crossbows in every state. I don't care. His point was, what problem are you solving for? Are you solving for more deer? Are you solving for bigger deer? Or are you solving for more hunters? So if you're in a state like Ohio, where our season runs from the last Saturday in September through
Mm-hmm.
the first Saturday in February, we have a long season. You can shoot a bunch of deer. But we're
Right.
not we're not trying to solve the problem for increasing our deer herd. We're trying to increase the number of hunters. So make it easier for hunters. Give them crossbows. Let them
Mm-hmm.
get into the sport easier.
Yes.
Now, if we ran into a spot where we started shrinking deer seasons and
Yeah.
we had to shrink tags because crossbows were killing too many deer, well, at that point you'd say, hey, we got to pull back the crossbows a little bit. We got to, maybe even pull back some of the new technology with compounds, those sorts of
Right.
things. And when you think about it in those terms, I think that's a better way of looking at it.
Yeah.
What am I really trying to accomplish with this law?
Right.
That's how I try to look at a lot of laws.
West Virginia went to crossbows a few years ago, and from what I have seen, I mean, I don't care. It does not. One of the things I've learned as I've gotten older is most things that may have bothered me when I was in my 30s anymore, it doesn't affect me. So, but one of the things I've seen is the recruitment aspect of it. The other thing I've seen is the shift. When I was, when I was 14, 15 years old, it was the Orange Army. That week of Thanksgiving, there was somebody behind every tree in West Virginia with an orange vest on. And now it's a shift since crossbows have become legalized. More people archery hunt and they're enjoying the 65-degree weather. Uh, they're enjoying the no pressure of rifle season. When I was younger, I felt pressure because you had to get your buck. You had to get your buck, you know. And I enjoy watching my daughter just have so much opportunity now instead of a compressed time of 1 week that a kid used to have. That's all we used to have for a kid because I wasn't able to archery hunt. Didn't have all the great compounds, and I wrote an article the other day about my first bow was a recurve and a bunch of mismatched arrows when I was about 16. Um, but to be able to watch my daughter be able to have so many opportunities to hunt from September all the way up into November is just so cool. And, eh, you know, they're talking about, well, we're killing more bucks, but we aren't. We've just shifted our kill from rifle season to archery. Now, the next thing we have to watch is it healthy? Because are we taking out our breeders before the rut, pre-rut? Those are things we have to answer as biologists and take a look at it. And it may be one of those things where in West Virginia you can take 2 bucks with a bow during archery season or a crossbow. Maybe you limit it to uh, one per weapon. You can kill one with a crossbow and then one later in rifle season or a muzzleloader or something. But
I think that's
uh,
what Wisconsin does actually. They have I think it's Wisconsin where you can use an archery buck and then it's like the second buck isn't until like their gun season, but that's like
yeah,
after the rut. I think
yes,
that's what they do there. I didn't even understand why they did it until you just
yeah.
talked about that. That makes sense.
Yeah, because you can lower your breeding age bucks down in an area, which then creates a trickle rut, which then creates a trickle fawn drop, which then makes your coyote
Mhm.
population explode and your predator
Yep.
population explode. So there
Yes.
are, I
And
mean, there
one more
are
thing about the
reasons.
archery thing.
Yeah,
I want to bring up one more thing about the archer thing because
sure.
I don't want to I don't want to gloss over this point because I think a lot of people hear what I say about, hey, use whatever you want, have fun. But one thing that I don't want people to miss is that if you're using a crossbow, and then you challenge yourself with a compound, I promise you, you're going to enjoy your hunt more. And if you're
Yes.
on a compound and you switch to a recurve like I did, I didn't even like it was when I switched to a recurve, it was mostly me just not getting in range of deer. But like
Right.
I hunted a ton, I had so much fun. And when I finally did it, it was so much more rewarding. And I think that use what you want. That's fine.
Right.
But as long as it's legal, oh, I hate that saying too, but like if it's legal and ethical, use it in your state. But
Right.
try to push yourself too, because I guarantee you'll get more out of hunting when you do that.
Yes. 100%. That's a great comment. Maybe one more topic here. CWD. I love your
Good. I
show.
love this topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. CWD 19.
Yes. And that's something that we talk about here all the time too. I think we're on the same page as you are on this. Um, back in the COVID era when it first come out, the public ate up everything that was being released to them because we didn't know anything.
Hmm.
CWD is the same way. When it first started popping up here and there, the world's going to end. We have to control it. We have to kill a bunch of healthy deer to make sure we don't get any sick ones. All of this just stuff we look back at now and go, wow. What are you finding out there in the different states?
So I've read pretty much every main CWD study that you can get your hands on. I spent an
Right.
entire and I got into this because I I didn't know what I really believed about CWD like back in October or November. And but I knew what I was being told was a lie. Like everything they were saying, like it was going to destroy the deer herds, but you're not seeing it. And so I was really confused. So I just put up a post basically saying, hey, what do people think? I don't know what's right or wrong here. I don't know a ton about it. I know the basics, but
Right.
what the one thing I know is I'm being lied to, and what they're telling me is not it is not right. Something is missing here. And that
Right.
post immediately, it was like 15 to 20 million views, somewhere in there. Like and then the next day I put another one up and it was like the same type of thing. And that's when I realized like, oh, the vast majority of hunters are thinking just like I am. So then I went,
Yes.
okay, well, now I've got a lane to go down. So I didn't write about CWD for about 2 months after that. I just read a bunch of studies on CWD. And I think a good way of talking about it is how it started. The
Okay.
first study that came out that people really referenced and started going crazy about CWD was the Wyoming study. There was
Right.
it was an area called Area 65. They said, hey, look, you're going to have a 10.9% decrease in population year over year, which means that every 5 years you're going to have a halving of your population. To put it in simple terms, from 2010 when the study was done, in 2025, we should have had less than 20% of the deer left. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's nowhere in this country where if you lose over 80% of your deer, you have a deer season.
Right.
So I went, well, then like I read the study, I saw those numbers. And so then I went, okay, well, where is this Area 65? I got on the website, Wyoming's DNR website, and I saw that they're still having a hunting season there. They had their last 3 year bag limits, but that was it. It was like
Mm.
250 or something like that, or six or 350, something like that. And
Right.
it had all the breakdowns. So I went, I filed some public records requests and went back and saw what the harvest data was for 2010. Between 2010 in 2025, when they're supposed to lose over 80% of their deer, the harvest data was two more deer killed in 2025 than 2010. So
Oh
it
wow.
didn't drop. There was ups and downs in the middle. There was all sorts of ups and downs, obviously, that's what's normal, but it was
Right.
almost identical, which means that that population didn't collapse like they said. And that's the first study that a lot of the states like Wisconsin used to justify these crazy rules. Hey, we got to shoot
Yes.
all the deer, we got to kill all the deer to save them. We got to end baiting. We got to end, every one of these restrictions that doesn't actually make sense.
Right.
And so that's the most important study. And then, I'll sometimes get some pushback like, oh, well, what about Arkansas? There's a study up there. They used to have all these deer, now they don't have deer. Well, in every one of those locations, you can go back and look at what they did. They
Mm-hmm.
would they went that specific area, it's called Area 1. Went from they had antler point restrictions. They eliminated those. They increased tags. They basically gave out unlimited depredation permits for the farmers, and they went in and shot all of these deer. And then they're like, "Hey guys, look, they had CWD and all the deer are gone." It's like, well, yeah, because you guys just shot them all. Like that, your
Yeah.
policy was to shoot them all. Of course, there's less deer now. That's not
Right.
from CWD. That's from like the hunters. we watched the hunters shoot them. And that's the same type of stuff that did happen with COVID. So those two studies, and then because I'll try and make it quick, but the other really important study is the Illinois study. So basically, what that one shows is that deer genetics have good alleles. Or we'll just make it simple: good genetics, bad genetics for CWD. Right.
Right.
The bad genetics are overwhelming in an area that doesn't have CWD, and then they're more susceptible to getting it, so they die sooner. It affects them sooner. Um, then there's other genetics that they never get it, or they very, very rarely get it, like less than 5% prevalency rates in those genetics.
Right.
So those genetics are increasing very rapidly in areas that start reaching that higher CWD threshold, right? Because it's not fair to say that CWD isn't real. I don't think it's fair to say it doesn't affect deer. And this is me as a biologist, this kind of stuff will drive you crazy. So I'm going to try to explain it, like dumb it down. For people that aren't biologists, the CWD basically kind of chews holes in the brains. And I look at it as almost giving deer kind of dementia, right? It makes them a little
Right.
slower. It affects their cognitive abilities. And so they're more susceptible to being killed by coyotes or by hunters. And so those deer are going to get killed at a higher rate than deer that have the good genetics.
Right.
And we're seeing this happen naturally. This is something I talked with Dr. Christopher Seabury about. He's the world's leading CWD researcher, geneticist guy. Like, the guy's brilliant. And he said,
Mhm.
"Listen, Mother Nature's already solved this problem for us. He's done a bunch of genetic research, and he said, look, this is that Mother Nature's going to take care of it. There's nothing we can do. The only policy that makes any sense that they're pushing is not moving carcasses from one state to another, because if it's not in a state, you don't want to just take
Right.
it from one state to another. If you know, he's like, that's the only one that makes sense. But
Right.
the baiting bans don't make sense. And in his professional opinion, he said CWD is the most corrupt area of science that he's ever seen in his entire life. And this guy's done a ton of research.
Well,
So
I
take it from
believe
the
that.
experts.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, when you look at Missouri and Michigan and their baiting bans, but then they allow within so many feet of a house you can go bait. Feed the deer for.
Oh, that
It's like can CWD not cross that imaginary line 300 feet from the house?
Yeah. Well,
It's
remember the riots that you were allowed to go to outside, but everybody else had to stay locked
yeah,
in
exactly.
2020? It's the
Yeah.
same type of stuff. There's so
Yes,
many parallels there.
yes, it is. Stephen, we've been going on for a while here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think we could talk
it
all
goes
night.
quick.
Yeah, yes, yes. And I'm going to invite you to come back sometime here. Maybe you'll uncover some more stuff, and we'll touch base and have you come back, and we'll keep building our audience, and
Yeah, for
you can
sure.
talk to
And
more
trust
people.
me, I have a lot of stuff that I've never even written about. I have
Right.
probably 1,000 different crazy grants, and it's all coming out on Rack Junkies. You'll see it. But yeah, man, I'm
Awesome.
glad that we got to meet. I'm glad we, like you said,
Yes.
we go back and forth online a little bit, but it's always interesting to actually meet the people
Yes.
that you're kind of talking to online.
Yes, sir. Well, sometimes you don't know how to take somebody online or through text. You can't get the feeling for what they're saying for them, for their passion. Um, and it's always good to talk face to face. And I encourage that out there in the hunting world. Even if you disagree with somebody, talk with them.
Yeah.
That's one of the things. And I'll say this real quick. We see on the tracking and drone side. You hear dogs versus drones and drones versus dogs, but very seldom can you get them to get on a show and talk together. The guys that
Mm,
bash the hardest, just like they won't come on and talk. They're
no.
good. They're good keyboard warriors, but they won't come onto a podcast and just hash it out and say, "Hey, yeah, this is my opinion, and I stand by it." So, and
Yeah, we need more of that. Disagreement's
yes,
not a bad thing. Like, that's how you, like,
exactly.
I can't be more right if I don't know where I'm wrong on something. So talk to me. Like, tell me where I'm wrong. I would love to. I'm an open-minded person. So if you tell me I'm wrong
Right.
about something and you have I'm gonna push back, but like, give me something to go on. And I've changed my mind a bunch of times. I think that's
Yeah.
important.
Sheila and Roger here in West Virginia says we have the genetics and it's starting to show, and I agree with them. There, we're starting to since West Virginia dropped their buck limit down to 2, and we're seeing that more management minded hunter. We are seeing that. I appreciate that comment. Stephen, I appreciate it. I think we're going to start to slide off of here. And I do need to say, coming up Wednesday evening, we have, let me make sure I'm looking at the right schedule here, get to the right page. Upcoming schedule. Wednesday evening, Justin Stanton. Justin is a local West Virginia hunter that's killed several good bucks, doing it on his own out here, doing some management work. We're going to talk with him and about some of his management techniques. And then coming up on 8/31, that's next Monday, Monday the 31st. Little special episode. My daughter, Raised Right with JC, she wanted to jump on and do a live cast. So we're going to talk some hunting with her. We may have a couple other special guests. And then we'll just go on out to Monday, September 2nd. We're going to have Robert Miller. Robert Miller out of Michigan. He is a very good dog tracker. And we're going to talk dog tracking as we get into the seasons, and maybe bust some myths and talk a little bit about what's going on out there. But we appreciate you, Stephen. I appreciate your time this evening, and hopefully we can catch up again here soon.
Yeah, one quick question. Your
Sure.
daughter is Raised Right with JC? Is that your daughter and granddaughter then?
That's my daughter. Yeah, she's 11 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and she is.
I see that page. I see their content pop up. That's why I was like, wait,
Yeah.
I know that page. That's
Yep.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, she's my daughter. She's a really good little hunter. I mean, very good, and she's ate up with it. So she wanted to do a live cast, and I said, "Yep, come on, jump on." And
That's awesome.
I told her if she had any guests she wanted to invite, she was more than welcome, whether it was some of her friends or some of her outdoor heroes even that she looks up to. I said, we'll just reach out and invite them, and if not, we'll just talk. So may just be
Yeah,
me and
that's
her
great.
doing
Get
a
them involved.
podcast.
Hey, that's not bad. I mean, just like I
No.
got a 10-year-old son and a 15-year-old. Like I love just talking to him, spending time. That'll
Yeah.
be interesting, and that's like a natural type of conversation. That's good. I like
Yeah.
that.
We appreciate it. I appreciate you, everybody out there, putting up with us. We had to come and come up with a temporary podcast studio this evening, thanks to Mr. Groundhog chewing on the Starlink down at the office. So we're actually starting to lose light here, so no better time to sign off. Stephen, I really appreciate it. We will catch up, and if there's anything you ever need, feel free to reach out to us.
For sure. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Everybody, we'll see you on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock right here on Long Spurs Beyond.